Hey, this is Anthony Polanco of the God XP Spiritual Fitness Podcast, and this is how I run my podcast. I am just going to go for this. I've tried a bunch of times, and, well, it's just taking too long. So I'm just going to lay it all out for you. I'm going to go through my entire podcasting workflow, process by process, and rather than just showing you what I'm doing, I'm also going to show you how I'm doing it. So unlike other things like this, I'm actually going to show you exactly how it works. So stay tuned for that. If you are someone who has a podcast and you're struggling to keep it going, I've heard a lot of people in my circles recently, last year or so, talking about having a podcast, but it's just for whatever reason on hiatus. So I did podcasting wrong for about 4 years before the last 18 months have just been consistent. And well, I've been there. Starting and stopping sucks, and you lose all the momentum, and you don't get the benefits of having a podcast during those downtimes. So I wanted to help out because my podcasting workflow has allowed me to stay consistent in all weather conditions in my life. When I'm super busy, when I've got other projects going on, been able to keep the podcast on, and it's grown over time. I didn't set myself a really high bar in the beginning. Just wanted to get a podcast a month and then slowly grow from there. And now people are booking themselves, and I can do a podcast a week. If I want to go more than that, it would not be hard to turn that dial. With that said, I'd like to show you my entire workflow completely for free. If you are a podcaster who is struggling to keep consistency, this is for you. So I mentioned that I had done podcasting wrong for about 4 years before I finally started getting this momentum going over the last 18 months. And it sucks starting and stopping. You really lose a lot of momentum. It's hard when people recognize your inconsistency. It makes it hard to become consistent again. I had a conversation with a friend about a year ago, I'd say. We were talking on Zoom about like business and marketing ideas and stuff. And he said some nice things about my podcast. I asked him to offer me some honest criticism, some honest feedback. And he said, one time I was looking at your show, looking through the episodes, and I noticed that I couldn't find a consistent pattern of posting. So it took me a while to realize that you were even podcasting again. So, that really stuck with me. It made me realize that it's not so much about the quality of production that you should be focusing on, or about the quantity of guests, or even the status of your guests, but about your consistency. The first thing a person thinks is this show going to be there the next time I look? So I started optimizing my system for consistency. Can I do a show when I'm the busiest I've ever been, or when I've got no resources? Can I still do the show? There are lots of wrong ways to do it, and I'm not saying that my way is the best. I'm just saying that I have developed a way that is easy to run when you're busy, and to keep a podcast going without spending a lot of mental energy in that direction. I was looking at surveys before putting this together, and I saw that there are over 2 million podcasts worldwide, which sounds like a lot. When I started podcasting in 2016, it felt like there was already a lot and that the market was saturated. In 2022, it's definitely saturated. But I would still say that today would be a great day to start a podcast. I think in 2025, it'll be a great day. I think if you want authority of ideas in your space of thought, whatever that is, then you need a podcast, because it concretes your thought for all of time, infinitely scalable. And even if you don't get a lot of people listening, the people who do know that you have it out there, they recognize the importance of that. And so they add value to your thought based on that. If you have a podcast, people know that people are listening, and people are listening. So you win on two fronts, and there are so many more fronts to win on as well. Just for example, the guests that you meet are new relationships that you wouldn't have had any other way. Another thing that really stuck with me while reading this survey was that 33% of people, a third of people they surveyed, said they aren't sure how to get started. Not that they tried it and didn't like it, or for whatever reason decided podcasts weren't for them, but that they just don't know how to start. I remember when I started podcasting, I had barely figured out how podcasting worked. I think I might have listened to 2 podcasts, Joe Rogan and who knows, maybe something else, a couple of other, Tony Robbins. And that was in 2015, 2016, and I was just like a 24-year-old kid. So it's still really new, and you're still early. And even if you weren't early, even if every single person had one, you would still need one. It concretes your thought, your philosophy for all of time. And if you want your message to spread, whatever that is, you definitely need to get your podcast on track. Okay, so enough philosophy. We're just going to go right into how I run my podcast. You'll find a couple of these processes can work for you and that you can implement very easily. Feel free to copy it all, but that's definitely not the goal. I think the best techniques are the ones that you feel most comfortable with, the ones that feel most natural to you. I put a Bruce Lee quote here that like a disciple of the philosophy of Bruce Lee is very appropriate. Absorb what is useful, reject what is useless, add what is essentially your own. I definitely feel that way about life in general, and I think that it's important to apply here because I'm just a guy. I'm not number one podcaster. I've developed a really easy method, but you might have different goals, and you might be in a different place entirely, that one of these processes don't make sense to you for whatever reason. So don't implement blindly. I'll try to make sure that you understand why I'm doing each thing so you can decide if that applies to you. But I'm sure that even just one of these processes will solve the problem that you're facing in your podcast workflow. Okay, really quick, who am I? My name is Anthony Polanco. I'm the host of the God XP Spiritual Fitness Podcast. I'm doing this with my hair. I barely fit my shirts. And I've got a neck tattoo. I've been podcasting since 2016. I am a digital marketing consultant. I've been doing that since 2015. Before that, I was in rock bands for 10 years. And that's really where I got my social media marketing chops. Just booking shows, promoting shows, engaging with fans, building community on social media before it was really a profession. 2005 to 2015, I was literally just learning social media marketing organically. So fell into my lap. I was a hairstylist for about 5 years from high school on, and it was fun, but clearly not what I was meant to do. So it was an easy transition to marketing. Podcasting came naturally as it just fits in with the whole internet marketing scheme, but it's also been a hugely beneficial personal and professional platform for me in life, educational as well, and probably so many other ways. But yeah, I can't express enough how much I benefit from podcasting, though it's not something I take a lot of pride in. I'm happy to share everything I do because, it's helped me. That's what I'm all about, is helping others. And as cliche as that sounds, I truly try to embody that. So I'm happy to do this. And that's who I am. So here are some ways that I've failed with podcasting, and they're pretty much all the same thing. It's basically taking it for granted and not realizing the potential that exists in podcasting even today. For me, if I knew now how much is on the table, how big of a piece of a pie I have available, I'd be going way harder. And as much as I've put into podcasting, I've gotten back or more. Every time I've stopped, it's because I didn't take it seriously enough. I didn't realize what was on the table. Every time I started again without planning well, I realized now that I was wasting a huge opportunity, stopping it all. If you could just keep it going, keep kicking the rock down the road, then at some point in your life, it might be easier to blow it up. Stopping is where the entropy starts. That's where death starts. And I had to get out of that. Some of the ways I benefited from podcasting, I just mentioned. Consistency is a huge component, but every episode that I've been able to do, I've been able to network with people in my industry, people in adjacent industries who I normally wouldn't get to talk to. You can literally just reach out to them and ask them to have a conversation with you that might last 90 minutes or more, and they just say yes. It's amazing. And these people could be complete geniuses. I've interviewed people with multiple PhDs, written 10 books, and really original, unique philosophies. I've interviewed master yogis who coach thousands of people a year and who I've seen on massive stages. I've interviewed people I really admire on a dime. It's really amazing. Brand collaborations and affiliate deals is something I started doing recently, where I actually, in my pre-interview process, ask the guest if they would like to collaborate on a brand deal or offer me an affiliate program, and pretty much all of them say yes. So we're able to create additional revenue streams. Even though I'm small, these are deals that can grow over time, and we've actually seen quite a bit of engagement from my community, albeit small, on some of these brand deals. It's amazing. I didn't even expect to get as much return from my listeners on some of these deals as I actually get. So it's really humbling and sobering to realize that people are listening, even when you have a small audience, and that these affiliate programs, sponsorships, they can go a long way, even when you're small. So that's been a really interesting benefit. I think most importantly, though, somewhat about a year ago, I was talking to a coach, and she was like a business coach. She was saying, I thought your podcast was what your program is, because I was telling her I wasn't sure what I was working on next, what my product was going to be next. And she goes, I thought the podcast was kind of like all about it. And I thought, wow, I never thought about that. But most people have a company podcast. They have a company, and the podcast represents what they're doing at the company. But I just started a podcast. So I was broadcast first with no product or service. I hadn't even really started to build product until I wrote a self-help book in 2018, and I put that on the shelf of the God XP store, but that was like a self-release. It wasn't really a God XP product. And so I started to create my first course, and that was called Death Mastery, and it was like a personal development course with meditation. And so she was saying, like, yeah, I thought your podcast was your thing. And it made me reverse engineer and start to reverse engineer what I'm talking about on the show. The people I'm talking to, how does it all tie together? And interestingly enough, it has shaped my niche and my services over the last 18 months quite a bit. Every guest that I have on reveals something about my interests and about my knowledge, about my experience, in a way that allows me to adapt my products and services and adapt my own personal brand, my own self-understanding, interestingly. So the benefit to my professional offering has been tremendous, just as a natural evolution. So those are three, but I'm sure there are so many more. Those are just three that I'm really passionate about. But why you? It's important that you have a reason why you want to get your show back on, why you want to have a consistent show, why you want to build a huge show, why you want to have huge guests on your show, or if you're doing a solo podcast or an educational podcast, why do you want to be taken very seriously? Why is your message so important? We have a message embedded in our hearts, and we work really hard to create stuff that allows us to express that. So it's important that you really take time to consider, why are you going to be a podcaster? Why are you going to get your show back on? If you don't have a good reason, then you won't keep it going in the hard times. So you have to have a reason that will get you through any season. I encourage you to just take 30 seconds right now, pause the video, and think about that. What do you want to get out of podcasting? What do you want to get out of getting your show back off the ground? Okay, so whenever you watch one of these presentation video things, the person will just give you a high-level overview of their toolkit. And that's something I really wanted to avoid doing. I want to make sure that you understand not just what, but how I'm doing what I'm doing, completely for free. It doesn't seem right that people make you watch an hour, or 90 minutes, or 2 hours of them talking about just completely high-level stuff that you can't actually implement. So you're about to see the work and the flow that I have implemented in my system. So from podcasting, normally I thought about doing this in reverse, because if you were setting up your podcast for the first time, you would start at planning, and then you would set up your publishing, and you would set up your promotion platforms, and then you would set up your editing platform, and then you would do some outreach, and you'd have your podcast. But we already have podcasts. you're just getting it back off the ground. So I decided to start at Podcast Day. Thought it'd be fun to start with where I'm at right now. If I had a show today, this is exactly how it would go. And then we'll move into the next process in the system, which would be editing. I'm going to show you exactly how I get the show edited, clips turned out from episodes, and content turned over to other video editors and to my social media team to get distributed, and how, if you don't have a team, how you can do that yourself very easily. I've only recently been experimenting with having a content team, and I will show you how I do that as well if you have a little bit more budget to implement in your podcast. But otherwise, you could do this totally yourself for free anyway. Publishing is the next step, how to distribute the content fast and efficiently and cover the internet as much as possible. Now, you might have a different marketing strategy where you just like to publish on one platform. So this might not apply to you, but you can see exactly how I do it. Same thing with promoting, distributing my content across social media as saturated and quickly as possible is really important. Some people like to just niche down to one platform to have a high engagement on one platform, but I have my ways of wanting to cover every base, and that's what I'm doing. And planning is just like the rest: hiring, scaling, training, strategy change, any changes to the outreach, changes to sales marketing, the overall workflow of our system. If anything changes, that might happen on an episode by episode basis or season by season. Planning can basically happen all the time, and depending on how much help you have as well. You might just be doing this part all the time, just working on little behind the scenes processes. But I'm going to show you how that works for me as well. What I won't do is just show you all my tools and how to use them. I think you could do that on YouTube, and it's just anyone pointing you in any direction saying do this or that. I don't really believe in that. I want you to see what I'm using, but you might only pick one from each category, or might not even need anything. You might already have something in place for all of these, but I will show you how I'm using them and the benefits to using them. But what I don't want you to do is just go download all these and try to use them, because I probably don't even need to use all these. Okay, so now it's podcast day. I just woke up, yawn, stretch, look over at my phone. I've got a notification from my calendar. So-and-so on the podcast today at 8:30 a.m. Okay, roll out of bed into my fuzzy slippers, little bunny slippers, throw on my silk robe, pick up the martini on my nightstand, take a sip, get up, shuffle over to the office, kick the door open, stumble in, flop onto the big reclining leather chair, pick up my cigar, put the martini down, light the cigar, pick up the martini, take a big swig, set it back down, put the cigar down, put my headphones on, pull the microphone up to my mouth, yell, "Hey Google, turn on The Office." Then I open up Riverside.fm on Google Chrome because it doesn't work on Safari. So this is like a Zoom. That's like a professional Zoom. It records the video in full quality on each person's computer and then uploads it to the cloud as you go. There are some downsides, like you have to keep the browser open, and so does your guest afterward for let me do this first. So there are some downsides, like you have to keep your dashboard open after the show, and so does your guest, because the recordings have to upload to the cloud. So sometimes they're not done. Usually they're not done. And sometimes your guest will forget, and then they have to log back on and do it. You have to tell them, and sometimes they don't do it, or they try and it doesn't work. But the exchange is you get really high quality recordings. You can record in full quality, and that's been a huge boost for our video marketing. Just having nice quality videos, a nice broadcast, maybe even better than some television broadcasts sometimes. We can go to the studio and show you. Can't spell my own name. I usually pick that I'm not using headphones, because if you're using headphones, it won't compress or noise cancel. So that's a problem, because if your headphones are too loud, it'll pick it up on the mic and it'll be like you're not using headphones. And so on the guest recording, it'll hear your headphone feedback. And that's the case with, I think, Zoom as well. So That's not because of the program's own inefficiencies. That's just about your headphones being loud and your microphone being able to pick it up. So I always say I'm not using headphones. That way it will noise cancel. So you can pick your outputs here just like Zoom. Join Studio just like Zoom. I always tell my guests it's just like Zoom. You do it on Chrome, but other than that, I just wanted to show you what it looks like when someone gets on. They'll pop on this screen, and you can check yourself before you wreck yourself. Go to hit record. It'll be like a 6-second countdown, and you talk a little bit before. That's what I do. Build a little rapport, 5 minutes or so. When it feels like you guys are getting a rapport going, you're talking too good, you're starting to waste content, you just like, okay, let's do the show. Okay. So then you hit record. It gives you a countdown. You record the show, and like I said, when you're done, you hit leave. It ends the show. Stay on so that you can finish downloading the recording. It'll tell you when it's done. You'll go to view recordings, and it'll show you like what's up. So these had technical difficulties. That's why I'm a little bit on the fence about recommending Riverside to you at this point, but there's no better option. Zoom is my backup option, and I pay for a yearly Zoom just to keep the over an hour or the hour long or more recorded meetings, uninterrupted recording meetings. I think that's what it is. So that way I can do podcasts on it. And when I started with Zoom. I did the first, 6 or 7 or 8 episodes with Zoom. The big downside is the recording video quality is not that great. It doesn't export like the real true 1080 HD quality. I think you actually have to contact Zoom support, I've heard, in order to get that. So it's weird, but I don't know if it's even possible if you contact them, if they'll give it to you. But I think that if you have Pro and you contact them, they will give you 720 for you and everyone in your group. Like it'll record 720 on everyone's. It's weird. I think right now it's like only with Pro, active speaker is 720 and everyone else is not. Unfortunately, you don't get a lot of video quality out of Zoom. But in a pinch, it can work. And if you're only doing an audio podcast, that makes it a lot easier. So you wouldn't have to worry about any of that. But you could still record it on Zoom if you wanted. So if you're not doing video, some of this is not going to apply, which is probably better. I don't know. Well, you lose out on the video marketing, which is huge these days. You get so much engagement from video marketing, even with a small following. So I wouldn't want to miss out on that. But you would cut out a lot of the video editing workflow and could churn out a lot more episodes. And I think if you were creative, you could create video content out of audio podcasting quite easily. You just need some graphic designs that you could use with some animations on them. I'm sure there's a lot of apps you could use that would create designs for you or animations for you. I digress because this is how I run my podcast, not how you might run yours. The guest books a time slot on Calendly, which is like an online calendar. Calendly syncs up with Google Calendar, which I have synced to my iPhone calendar, which will notify me. I don't like getting notifications from all these. It just lets me know on one place what's going on from everything. I also have a Zapier integration that will send Slack notifications from Calendly so that my content team can know when I have a new podcast guest so that they can design artwork and they can update the Google Sheet. The Google Sheet is where I keep all my prospects and keep track of everyone who's been on the show. Okay, so the episode's done. I log into my Riverside studio. They sent me an email that the video is done uploading. So they combine it together. It's pretty nice. You can go to the studio and adjust how you'd like it to be exported, and they will reassemble it for you how you like. So I usually do one of these, either grid or like full frame, where they just active speaker gets put up. So I'll do that, and I'll do a vertical one. You could also do these individual ones. I've tried a lot of different things, and I'll continue to experiment. It's nice to see what's available, and they're always updating the features. They also give you these thumbnails. They don't let you adapt those. I think they're over-branded, but still might be something you're interested in. Anyway, I'll download the video files that I need. Then I will go over to the video editing. Video editing is a very time-intensive thing. If you're doing a video podcast and you're on your own, you're going to be spending time doing video editing. and I'll share with you the workflow that allows me to create a ton of clips out of the video of the podcast and get it published right away. I'll also show you how I've been hiring and training video editors to help me with creating clips. I'm still experimenting with my workflow in hiring virtual editors, but I will show you what I've done so far and what I think will continue to work for me in the future. I'll also show you how we share files and manage content, and where I am sourcing extra content like extra footage and music or audio files. So import the recorded file from Riverside into Descript. That's step one. You don't need to do any of these if you don't edit, or you can use any video editing program, but Descript is a transcript editor. So I'll open up a project I have here from a recent podcast with Lana Bribick of the Modern Psychedelics podcast. And it went really well video quality wise, and the transcript is what you use to edit primarily with Descript, which makes it like super awesome because you can just read. You can see like which parts you like for exporting clips. So what I do is I keep a piece of paper next to me, and as I'm listening to the podcast. Hey everybody, welcome back to the God XP Spiritual Fitness Podcast. I am your host, Anthony Polanco. There you go. See, so as you're listening, you can follow along. When you find a piece that you do like and you're like, oh, okay, that'd be a great clip. You just be like, okay, boom, I'm going to copy this. You see there's some misspelled words, but you would just highlight and hit share and export and video, and it'll say current selection. It will export at any rates that you like. If you have high rate audio, you could do 48 and export, and you would have your video clip. There's also a really awesome feature for podcast clips that could apply to other things too, but if you go here and go over to fancy captions, insert, it will create out of the selection, or you could do the whole episode very easily, the whole video. It'll create on-screen captions for you to export. What's also cool is you can do dynamic text, word level animation. This is what I've been doing.
I did that all myself, believe it or not.
But you can also change the future word color, so you could remove it if you want. And
I had so much fun incorporating
There's really a lot of possibilities here. You could turn off the active word color. You could turn off the future words altogether. And that's like another thing I like to do. Super cool text on screen makes it so easy. You could export it just as fast, basically. That's a function for creating captions really easily, on-screen captions, and adding some visual effects to your videos that you put on social media, rather than having to go to Premiere and map it all out, or use Premiere's captions system, which isn't bad either. But being able to edit from transcript is so neat. If I don't like that I said this, I could just erase that and it would just sync it up where it should go. See, like you can't even tell. So great software. It's about $12 a month, I think. I think it gives you like 30 per month for $12. And I've never done 30 projects, even though I've been really busy with music videos, podcasts, and vlogs all at the same time. It's hard for me to get through 30 per month. So really good service. I love this software. If it did a little bit more, I wouldn't even need Premiere. But it doesn't allow you to edit video directly at all. It just allows you to add the captions. You can only cut, basically. So it also allows you to export the transcript when you're done. So if you could use it to just edit it up, all the misspelled words, shorten word gaps automatically, remove filler words automatically. Lots of really cool features, easily overused on my part, but this is how I can export like 12 clips per podcast by just like listening to it once I'm done. I export it, import it into Descript, listen through all the way, and I mentioned I had a piece of paper. I start marking down the time where I want to make clips, or I just make the clip. Sometimes what happens is there'll be some rambling, and it'll take about 3 minutes for the answer from the beginning to loop back around. So I'll have to export the whole thing, the whole 3 minutes. I export it, then I go into Adobe Premiere. You could go into any editing software you have and cut it down manually from 3 minutes to 1 minute by cutting out parts I don't like, rather than deleting big sections in here because I don't want to delete large sections from the actual show. What I have done is make a copy of the project for clips and then cut out all the extraneous stuff to make smaller clips so that you have a destructive version and a non-destructive version for like the full episode export. I like to keep it nice and neat, the full export, so that if I ever need to come back to it, and I have in the past had to do that, it's still nice. It's not all deleted up. So anyway, I go through the whole thing. I export a bunch of clips, and then I'm off. I go from Descript to my video editing software. Excuse the crude titling of some of these projects. It'll be Lana Clips Demo. And I import all the clips that I just exported. This should be in Documents for me. I'm going to grab all these thumbnails and just pretend that they are videos. So we're looking at our videos here. Some of them are a minute, some of them are 3 minutes, but they're horizontal, right? So I have to make them vertical. I go to sequence settings, and I make it vertical right around here somewhere. Make it vertical, and then shrink it up. Add some audio from either Splice Sounds, which you can check out. It's $7 a month, and you won't have much need for it unless you're a music producer. So I would use it for 1 month, download a bunch of sounds you like, save them to your computer manually, and stop using it because you won't need it. It's like mostly for samples, but it would be a good place to find like some loops that you can use for commercials, for intros. Yeah. You can slow them down, speed them up. That's usually what I do to make them original. Change the tempo without preserving pitch, that kind of thing. So Splice is what I use. It's not what I recommend. I recommend that you just look up something, royalty-free music for podcasting. Epidemic Sound, Soundstripe, Artlist. I'm sure I've seen commercials for all those, so I'm sure they're good. I make music myself, so I like to use my own music as well. You could use some of my music. I'll have a link maybe to a folder of royalty-free music of mine that I will keep, Creative Commons or whatever, forever, and you can use that. Otherwise, we will move on from exporting these. Let's say I added some music, cut it up a little bit to make it 1 minute for Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, YouTube, Snapchat, export media, turn on all the fancy settings like video, making sure it's high quality, making sure it's using previews, maximum depth, all that crap, export. Usually a way too big of a file, barely fits on my phone, and then save clip. No. For now, we get all those videos uploaded into Google Drive. Now, you get really good file sharing from having Google for your email, whoever manages your email. I think it's about $12 for me to have 2 accounts. I use them both. My assistant just monitors them both rather than having her own. So both emails basically go to the same place, and my assistant filters them. So I like it because it's $12 for 2 accounts, and you also get 2 terabytes of Google Drive storage for 2 people each. So that's 4 terabytes of storage for $12 a month on the Google Drive. And for every employee you have, it's only $5 more, and you get 2 more terabytes of storage. Still have not come close to even a marginal amount of 2 terabytes. So you'd be surprised at how long it would take you to fill it up. I don't have an affiliate program with Google, but when I realized how easy it was for me to share files with my teammates, my content team, I wouldn't go any other way now. Everyone has a Gmail email, and so it's easy for them to get access and to log in. I can just send my members file access, and this is all our content management system is just Google Drive. So $144 a year. You think about it, like that's your whole content management system. So stuff goes in here, outputs, folders, or what come back to me from the editors. Then I just drop them in when they're ready. If I approve them, drop them in social media folders for my assistant to put out, and that's how stuff gets out. For the most part, if it's really important or time sensitive, I'll just do it myself, and that's pretty much how that works. So the only other thing in the editing stack that I wanted to bring up but not go too much into is Figma. It's a free collaborative design tool that you can use to work on projects with a graphic designer or by yourself for certain projects that require like lots of iterations of things, which like a podcast thumbnail would fall into that category, or social media content, quote pics, things like that. I'll show you, like, this is a messy one, but here's like a nice and neat version of some podcast quote pics that I've been posting for the last, well, actually some of these I've been reposting, but posted these like a year ago, and they've been coming back every few months and release a new couple, and it's just a nice place to create like iterative design. But anyway, I've used it to create a lot of podcast thumbnails, and it just really helps with design. There's a lot of like grid snapping element to it that I really like. I think a free account will give you like 1 or 3 public collaborative projects that you can use to share with other people. I share with designers, and that allows us to work on projects. If they upload something, then I go to it. I can actually grab that thing and download it. So it's a pretty sweet, lightweight tool that you can use even in a Chrome browser, and it's free. So if you're not a designer, you don't use Photoshop, I really like it, and I use it for an increasing amount of things lately. And that's how I make my podcast artwork. So we're done with editing. Everything gets uploaded into the Google Drive. I pick which things I like and don't like, and I move it to the social media folder. My assistant goes into the folder, downloads the things. I used to keep a Google Sheet content calendar where I would tell her which ones to post and when, but unless there's a seasonal thing, she can put out whatever one she wants. So this podcast clip's going up from 6 months ago, mixed in with podcasts from last week, and I don't care. I want it that way. I want it to be like a TV station. You might have a different approach. I'm having like a shotgun approach. I don't know if it's working, but I'm definitely getting a lot more impressions than I would if I was just focusing on one platform. So here we are. We're done with editing. Everything hits the drive. Assistant is downloading the files, getting them scheduled to social media, getting them scheduled to YouTube. The blog and newsletter, there is automation for it that I might be able to show you, but I'm not implementing it right now. I'm just manually posting to the newsletter and blog. Buzzsprout is the platform I use to distribute the podcast to all the podcast channels on the audio side of things. You may have a better platform. I used to use Libsyn, and it drove me crazy. It felt like I was using alien tech. It was like designed for people from another galaxy. But Buzzsprout's really easy to use. It's pretty cheap. There's probably an affiliate code that I can offer you. If so, it'll be available somewhere. And yeah, that's the publishing process. It's less automated than previous processes, but it's getting there. And as of right now, I'm saving a ton of time with automation. So I just want you to see that when it comes to promoting your podcast, you don't have to just do video or just do audio. You can do quote pics. You can do graphics. I have an illustrator making me graphics and quote pics and stuff. Anything. It's just having graphics deployed towards getting attention for your podcast is its own thing. So it's in a whole channel that maybe you haven't explored. Copywriting, not just writing captions for Instagram posts, but writing newsletters about it, taking sections from the podcast and writing an essay about it. There's different ways of deploying writing toward promoting your podcast. People who listen to podcasts might be more likely to read essays or newsletters or things like that. So it's a whole different channel, method of communication that people might gravitate towards that you might not be deploying right now. And this fourth one, distribution, I couldn't just put audio because for the most part, all of our podcasts are going to be audio. So Distribution would be like the fourth pillar of promotion. It's just how you get it out in the right places at the right time. There's so many video platforms right now that it would be crazy not to, even if you just have an audio podcast, you can still take graphics and add a little transition to them. You can add an audio clip to a couple of images flashing back and forth, and that would be video content. Quote pics that are videos are video content. There's plenty of platforms for video, but there's also tons of text-based platforms, LinkedIn, Twitter, that you might just be perfect for. So as far as niching down goes, I think I haven't acquired that virtue when it comes to promoting the podcast. Just trying to put myself everywhere and get as many views as possible, because the ultimate goal is to get people to listen to the podcast more. And so getting as much video content on platforms where it can spread organically is like my whole goal. I would like to master a platform, but I definitely don't have any advice for you on that front, because I am taking a very wide spraying approach to social media distribution. So for a digital marketing consultant, my social media marketing automation isn't as crazy as you might expect. I do have a lot of cross-posting and redistribution going on. YouTube videos go to Pinterest. Instagram goes to Pinterest automatically. TikTok has to be posted by itself. Instagram video has to be posted by itself. But Hype Fury is posting my graphics to LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, posting my text posts to Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, writing as well. As far as my blog and my newsletter, those are being handled manually, just because the automation I've tried is not that robust. It doesn't give me a good result. You can tell that it's not real. So I like doing the newsletter myself. Kind of gives me a chance to address people personally, directly. I like Hype Fury for a lot of reasons. When I first started using them a couple years ago, they weren't as robust as it is now, but their customer chat is super fast, and they actually have implemented some features that I've requested pretty quickly. So they're working on it all the time, as you can see. If you go to Compose, it'll give you some tweet that you have already said in the past in case you wanted to reschedule it, which is cool. I'm not going to give you a full walkthrough of it because this is a video in itself, but it's definitely worth the premium plan so that you can schedule to LinkedIn and other places as well. They've got a lot of features like I haven't even really been able to access, just because of time. Haven't spent enough time on it. But yeah, it's great for rescheduling tweets and posting tweets, getting tweets queued up. The premium plan allows you 3 accounts, so I got everything on here, and I'm able to queue up tweets ahead of time so I don't have to always be on Twitter posting. I like to just post a lot of quotes anyway and old shows, and I have my own, some original tweets scheduled, and I do spend time going in and adding more occasionally. But yeah, I really like Hype Fury. They've, like I said, really supportive, always been there, and tons of features for what it is compared to its competitors. There is a affiliate program. I haven't signed up for it, but maybe by the time you see this, I will have. And you can click the link and help me get some kickback for telling you about it. Definitely recommend you check it out if you don't already have a Twitter scheduler. And again, it solves a lot of problems with Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook. Definitely worth checking out. So is this something you can do yourself? You might need to pick just a few to get started with, but YouTube and TikTok, huge return on your time for video making. Instagram may work as well. It just depends on what type of podcast you have. LinkedIn is great as well. Twitter, even Facebook video. So there's a little bit of land to grab on each one of these platforms, and if you're not too vain about your metrics, I think it's worth posting on all of them and seeing which one you hit best on, and even on the ones you don't, just keep optimizing until you do. I say, why quit? If you get 20 views on a video, that's 20 people seeing your podcast that wouldn't have seen it otherwise. So I see everything as a win. I see every engagement, every view as a win. After episodes or in between seasons, planning always goes on. Planning's going on all the time in many ways. So, for example, I'll tell my assistant what kind of guests I'm looking for coming up. what we've not had a lot of, and I'll maybe add some directions to a Google Sheet that shows, let me show you the sheet as well. So here's our Slack channel, and some people are checking in, checking out, and weekly schedules. We post different content to different channels, but these are mostly like news boards right now. We're not really posting a lot of like links and content in here. But so I'll drop some instructions to my assistant in the chat, and she will start hunting and add the prospects to a Google Sheet. So I don't want to show too many of these contacts, but so this is the sheet that we use, and when I approve some of the leads, I move them over to the prospects list, and then my assistant will start hunting them down, sending out our outreach messages. Some of them I do if she's not working, and I've seen that she hasn't gotten to some, I'll send them personally. But we work together on getting as many people contacted as possible throughout the week. And we always try to keep fresh guests on the list so that we don't run out. But we keep it pretty simple. We're not too crazy. We don't do any Roam Notion templates or anything like that. We're keeping it pretty simple with Sheets, Docs, and Slack as far as outreach goes. So she'll outreach, I'll outreach, and then the whole goal is to just get them to a Calendly date. It's a little bit of a wall barrier for the guests to schedule themselves on an online calendar, but I think it's worth setting up a barrier because it's a free offer. And so the guest has to want to be there, and they have to do something to buy in. And I think that little wall that creates no's is actually really helpful, because if they're not willing to even do something very simple, schedule themselves in a calendar, then they don't take it seriously enough. And I find that the people who come on my show actually treat it with a lot of respect, and I think it has something to do with the pre-qualification. So here's a simple booking page for the podcast. So simple questions. I try not to go too hard with them, but this is the big one here that I added that's really started to pay dividends for the podcast. Do you have any co-promotion ideas or an affiliate deal we can promote for the next month, 6 months, 12 months? So this is basically asking to collaborate on a product together, or to create some kind of coupon code or discount offer that we can promote and in exchange for an affiliate commission. So I've been able to establish really nice collaborations with companies, brands that I never thought I would have. So definitely think it's really important to come up with an offer like that, because it exposes your show to a lot of collaboration opportunity. It creates a collaboration opportunity that can exist beyond the podcast itself. It gives each guest, each relationship, legs that can go a lot further. So just by asking a simple question, and you can probably come up with something even better than this. This was very quickly implemented. We can optimize this process for sure. So definitely challenge you to come up with a really nice approach to asking for a co-promotion or collaboration, because that's been really paying dividends. So that's how we set up our calendar. It's just really helpful to have everything all in one place. So even if you're a one-person shop, I still had a Slack channel for just myself and for Zapier to send data, because I knew eventually I'd want to be able to scale it to have more people. And that's what happened. So set yourself up for the, knit yourself pants big enough that you can grow into them. So I could go a long time on hiring and training. There's this platform, Online Jobs PH, that I use to hire some assistants from the Philippines, and you don't actually need full-time help. So you could hire someone for a couple hours a week or a freelancer, but the benefit of hiring them through a platform like Online Jobs PH is they are a lot more curated. So the applicants you get, you can actually get the ones you want. You are establishing direct relationships with these people, whereas with a platform like Upwork or Fiverr, there's an intermediary. Online Jobs does not take or pay any money. It costs to be here. It's $70 a month. And so you might want to just hire and then turn it off when you don't need it. but it's really cool to have to farm talent. And I have found some really great talent who delivers me like incredible amount of effort and work and creative for the amount of hours and for the rate of pay that they are requesting. So you can get creative with how you approach the job offer. I try different things all the time. This one's like a talent farming freelancer team post, but I've done like hourly, I've done full-time, part-time, freelance, and it's just really interesting to see what kind of talent's out there. If you interview them properly, asking them questions over 4 or 5 steps, you'll be able to tell whether or not they're legit or whether they're just lying about something. So you're just hiring real people. They're just on the other side of the world. We communicate through Slack. It's really easy to keep in touch. If they're not checking in and checking out, then I let them go. Slack's just a good channel to keep everyone in. It's free for 3 months of content. It starts deleting backwards unless you buy the plan. I think it gets pretty expensive, so I'm just using the free one and letting stuff get deleted. If it's important, I can save it somewhere else. But so far, I'm just using it to communicate as a chat thread. We're exchanging files through, like I said, Google Drives. I think there's a lot more room for my project management and team management to grow with Slack. So I'm using Google Docs to exchange training information with employees. I just really like Google Docs. It's something I use for a lot of different things, and I've made these interactive training manuals that my employees are able to learn from and grow with me. If one of them gets fired, the next one can jump right in rather than having to explain everything all over again. You can see Digital Marketing Manager's Guide, Graphic Design Orders, Booking Outreach Workflow, Outreach Scripts, Graphic Design Employee Evaluation Forms, Web Designers, Website Builder's Guide, Marketing Tasks, Podcast Notes. Everything goes through Google Docs. It's free, it's on the cloud, Google's going to keep it safe. Might not keep it private, but they'll keep it safe unless something blows up the entire earth. I think it should be safe from destruction, at least. So that's where our employees learn. I use the table of contents as like a menu. And lastly, screen recording. I use ScreenFlow. It's paid. I just bought it a long time ago, and so I just keep using it. But you can also use, there's a Loom that people really, I think they've really limited their free version use to like 5 minutes or something, so it might not work. But a good hack is Zoom. You can just use Zoom, and you can do screen recording, you can record your face, you can do a whole bunch of stuff and record it to your computer, and then just use that, upload it to whatever platform, YouTube or whatever, and keep it as private to share to your team. There's other hosting platforms, Vimeo, Wistia, but some of them become paid after a while, so YouTube is still the best free video storage platform to use. Yeah, ScreenFlow is good, but it's over $100 or so. I don't think you should go out and buy it. I think you should just use Zoom for free. So yeah, that's that. The main hubs for my workflow are Slack, Google Drive, and the other tools we're utilizing are Google Docs and Google Sheets because they're free, flexible, available on the cloud, collaborative, and they go a long way. And we're using that for strategy, training, marketing, sales materials. Those things go quite a ways in our workflow. And the rest are just tools that are popular today. The next generation of tools, I'll be using those. Things like Buzzsprout for distribution, Hypefury, Premiere Pro, Descript. Those things are just the best tools that I've found. So use what you've got, adopt what you like, and discard the rest. Okay. So a couple of things that I'm going to be working on in the next couple of months. Follow-ups and reruns. So everyone who has been on the show, follow up with them. Get them back on. You have changed. They have changed. I tell almost every guest, the ones that I really enjoy, hey, I'd love to have you back on in 6 months. And it's time to have them on. A lot of them, it's been a year. So definitely doing reruns. What a special thing for you, your show, for your listeners, for your guests, to see the transformation and how much has come to fruition for each of you. Every podcast guest is a relationship, and if you do it right, you can cultivate strong, serendipitous relationships with each, maybe not each one, but the ones you like. Increasing collaboration. We talked a little bit about it earlier, but each guest is an opportunity for a collaboration deal or an affiliate deal that can change both of your businesses. You might be the perfect promoter for their thing. So be willing to step out and risk asking and sounding stupid. Okay, can we work together on something? If they say no, it's fine. No big deal. Most of them will say yes. Promote the old stuff. You'd be surprised at how much the algorithm just ditches content. So a lot of people who follow you haven't seen the stuff that you've posted. You'd have to post it 5 or 6 times for everyone to see it. So go back to the old stuff and edit some, like how I've shown you how to edit today, and put it out like it's new. And don't even say how old it is. Just put it out again with the same caption or with a new caption. People won't even know how old it is. They'll think it's new. And that's how you can really stretch your content. Don't treat it as old. It's just a classic. Run it all the time. And lastly, try more stuff. I think we get stuck in our ways. When you stop feeling like you look stupid, you can really have a good time. And when you stop being afraid of looking stupid, you'll be out there all the time just having fun, dancing in the sprinklers in the front yard. So go back to that mindset of just not caring, being a student of podcasting. Plan to podcast for the long term. If it's worth doing for a year, then it's worth doing for 10 years. If it's not worth doing 10 years, it's not worth doing for a year. It's not worth doing once. But you know it's worth doing. And I don't have to tell you how much good has come into my life, because you've probably experienced that, or you've heard so many other stories about how valuable podcasting has been in someone's life. So let that be you. Make this the time. Make this the moment where you finally make it. A couple more is that people are watching. When you get your podcast going again, you might not have a lot of engagement. The people who used to listen might not listen, but people are still watching. A lot of people will say to themselves, oh, nice, I like that. I like that message. And they'll keep scrolling. The next time they see it, they'll be like, oh, wow, there's that thing again. I really like this. Maybe they'll hit the like button. But you have to realize that what you're doing is putting yourself into a mirror dimension. You're putting your content into a mirror dimension, and all you can see is yourself back. You can't see the expressions on people's faces. You can't see how many impressions it's really making, or to what degree that those impressions are positive or negative. So don't judge yourself on how little you're getting engagement if it's little, because you have no idea how big the internet is and how much effect you can still have. War is messy. Make it messy. It's not a perfect thing, podcasting. It's like putting a car together. You still have to try. Your first car is not going to come out perfect. It's not going to run right away, or it's going to keep breaking down. But you have to keep trying. War is messy. Don't give up. If you want something and you'll do anything to have it, go to work. Be messy. Put out episodes that didn't come out. Put out episodes where the video was half messed up or the audio had to be cut in half and you had to explain why. Just do it anyway, because you have to kick the rock down the street. And you have to do that one episode at a time. Building a tower of power. You know, when I started the podcast, I had no idea what it was really about. I just knew my interest wanted to be itched. My interest in spirituality, my interest in hearing other people's stories about their interactions with God or their spiritual path. I knew I needed to talk about it, even if it was just me on a mic talking about my thoughts. And that's how it started. And now I've met so many people, amazing experts from all over the world who have those stories too. And not to mention, learned so many new fields of study that I never would have known before, fields that didn't exist to me until I started putting myself out there. And what I'm building is a tower of knowledge, a tower of experience, new skill, a tower of relationships and network atop my podcast, which is just me talking or me talking to somebody else. So continue to seek ways to add pillars of value to your podcast. That's value added to you, value added to your listener, or value added to your guest. And lastly, just try more stuff. Don't be afraid to be silly looking or silly seeming. Try different formats of promoting your show. Be a mascot. Try local stuff. Don't be afraid to promote yourself. I have sponsored a amateur MMA promotion in my local area. I've done that a few times. Are people listening because of that? I don't know, but it's still fun to try different things. I think the reputation you build for being brave and brash is better than the one you get from being timid and self-aware, because it's just like counterintuitive. People want to support people who are more like themselves. So don't be afraid to just be messy and do it however it's got to be done, and try new things and be on the frontier, be on the forefront of your market, you know? So I just want to bring it back around to why you're doing this. Is this going to be the moment when you finally get your podcast on track? The only way it can be is if you decide for yourself that it's going to be. And in order to do that, you need a specific reason why you're doing it. That's going to make it worth suffering through the uncertainty, suffering through the self-criticism, through the rejection, through no responses to failures, the setbacks. If you have a strong reason why, you will persevere through those things. The best way to find that is to conceptualize, use your imagination. Who could you be in 10 years? What kind of podcaster could you be? Talk show host. Really envision that person. How would that person act today? What decisions would that person make today? Can you feel that sense in yourself, of yourself in the future? Because if you can, realize that's you right now, feeling that feeling. It's inside of you right now, from the future. The more you can tangibly realize that, the more you can put it into place right now. What should you do right now? Make a decision that you are in that reality, that you are on that timeline, and start acting like it. Make a plan. Decide what you want. Decide how you want your season to look, your episodes, how you want yourself to market and promote. Write out your processes. You just saw mine. It doesn't matter how much I give you, because you have to be the one to decide for yourself. You have to be the one to make it happen. And that's it. You should be able to implement these things for free on your own if you have the time. If you don't have the time and you want to ensure your success in the next 30 days with relaunching your podcast and really exploding your output, minimizing your workflow, then go to howirunmypodcast.com and sign up. If the spots are full, join the wait list and we'll do it next month. I really want to help you. It would be an honor to help you blow up your podcast. So go to the 30-day podcast coaching sprint form at howirunmypodcast.com and I will see you there. Otherwise, be blessed, implement these things, do good for yourself, for your podcast, and grow. I will see you when I see you. Be blessed.